Welcome everyone to the Return2Play podcast. I'm back again with Melanie to talk about more energy hacks that we can do throughout our day that will allow us to continually build energy as we age instead of feeling like we're losing energy as we age. We talked a little bit last time about some good foundational pieces in regards to how to help your sleep improve, how to help potentially think about your food and how it supplies you energy. We might dive a little bit more into that today as well. But then we also talked about some other things like caffeine and naps, and there's going to be a couple more things that come up today that can all be included in the day in a way that helps you continue to build that energy instead of feeling like it's just leaking out throughout the day. So I want to give Melanie a moment to throw off any initial thoughts before we dive into the rest of the conversation.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Yeah, really good. I'm glad to be back. And yeah, what I was thinking as well, a lot of people when it comes to energy hacks, they think like, oh, I can't do more. I'm already fully packed. And if I implement more, then it's overwhelming. And I think this is where we need to show more, okay, it's doable without being overwhelmed. You can implement little things that are actually creating space for yourself instead of overwhelming and putting more and more onto you. So yeah, it's more about the energy level to keep it up through things that are not adding onto you, but they are supporting everything.
Great way to put it. It does sometimes start to feel like, oh, I've heard so many different things from so many different people and I'm trying to implement all of them, and knowing where to start is what we kind of would like to help you realize. This is the most important thing before I do that next important thing. And then what does that hierarchy really look like? And then when does stuff like the biooptimization protocols come into play? We want to help kind of sift through the weeds a little bit today, continue with some of the foundational topics that we were starting to cover the last podcast, and then continue into some more, call it frontier ways that are being researched these days that can help boost it even more to that next level.
Without starting with the fancy new things and then realize like, oh, this is way too much for me. Like, no. There needs to be a foundation that's good to keep, like without being stressed out about it. Oh, I have to do meditation, go out. No. There are certain things to have an easy foundation where you can build up on.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. And one of those biggest foundations is nutrition. We mentioned a little bit about it last week, but I do want to kind of start there again and just re-emphasize the importance of looking at your food as fuel and not just as something delicious. Right? Our bodies are very complex, and the way that our bodies get energy is based on what you eat. We've all heard that phrase, you are what you eat, and it is very true because we literally pull the nutrients from our food and it becomes part of us. So you literally start to become what you eat. And first and foremost, that should be where everyone's kind of food is medicine. So let me look at that first. So if you feel really lethargic and sluggish, it could be related to blood sugar spikes and drops. Yeah. It could be related to hunger cues that are off or too strong for what they should be.
Micronutrient deficiencies. And I think food is really easy to start with because we eat anyways. So this is nothing we have to add onto our day or to let away. Like, no. We eat anyways, so we can just have different choices and everything will change already.
Right, and it can start with one choice at a time.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it can be a lot to do at once. When I tend to get clients, I try to be as minimally packing on with one habit at a time or one tweak at a time, whether it's, just focus on protein for these 2 weeks. We'll worry about carbs and fats later. Just focus on protein right now. It could be as simple as that. So I'm not worried about 3 macronutrients right off the bat. I just care about this one. And then maybe we focus on water next. And then maybe we focus on carb reduction if it's necessary or whatever tweak then. But it's
depends on the person, yeah.
It's after that initial hierarchy is set, which is protein is king. So that's usually where I emphasize. And when you start to focus on protein, you end up eating less of the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it just pick the thing that has the biggest impact.
Yeah.
So,
a lot of people also, it starts not even what you eat, but how you eat. I think we mentioned it last time, but it's not about only like proteins and carbs, fiber, fats. It's also like, are you stressed when you sit on the table and then you eat? Because then you lose the connection. Like, when am I satisfied? Am I still hungry? To find back to, okay, do I want more? Do I need more? This is also the basic, or chew the food. there, the digestion starts in your mouth with the breaking down of the food. Whatever we don't do in our mouth, our rest of the system has to cover. And this can cause to really like problems.
I just had someone recently realize that she's like, no, I don't actually chew my food that many times. I was like, I don't want you counting how many times you're chewing, but you should chew long enough to where the food is already broken down pretty well before you're swallowing it. If you're swallowing whole food, then you definitely have not chewed long enough. And as you mentioned, there's enzymes in the mouth that help start breaking down this food so that when it gets to the stomach, it's ready for that phase.
Yeah.
If it goes down into the stomach before it's had that pre-digestion enzyme help, now your stomach is working overtime. Now you feel like you get irritable stomach problems starting to trickle in. It could all be just you didn't chew your food enough.
Yeah, but then you go and say like, oh, maybe I'm intolerant to things. Like, start with the basics first, just chew. And be aware when you sit down, and also to sit down. These days, so many people, where do they eat? They eat on the go, they eat at the car, they eat when they're in between meetings quickly. Like, no, food should be something we consciously consume and put into our body. So our nervous system needs to be ready as well. The parasympathicus, the nerve that is a little bit like the rest and digest. This is why it's called like this, rest and digest. You need to give your nervous system the choice to switch to the digestive mode. Right. If you're in the stress, fight and flight mode and then you eat, your body's like, yeah, well, I cannot eat, I'm on the fight and flight mode. So yeah.
And the TV is another big one. If you sit down and watch TV while you eat, your brain's distracted watching the thing on the television, so you're not paying attention to your satiety levels. So you're probably going to eat a few hundred calories more because you didn't have the awareness in that moment to be like, I think I'm actually good now.
Yeah.
And for my clients who are trying to lose weight, one of the habits we'll work on is try to eat, but don't ever get full. If you're trying to lose weight, you should not be full. You need to be eating in a calorie deficit. So that means if you're eating to fullness, you're almost intentionally not hitting your goal. There's I'm hungry, there's I'm satisfied, there's I'm full.
And in between satisfied and full, usually what most people don't know, you have a little burp. It's a natural burp. This first burp shows you, okay, my stomach is almost full. And this is when I teach my clients as well, like be aware when does this burp come, and then look how much is still on your plate to see maybe my serving size is way too big. So try to stop then. Leave it for later when you have the next meal or for the next day. Like try to listen to your body.
No, that's a great one. I haven't quite heard that. I'll have to pay attention for that little moment and see, because if that's the case, that's definitely a good one to point out to people.
Yeah.
But it's finding that, okay, I'm satisfied, which means I'm eating at maintenance calories usually. If you're full, you're probably going to be gaining weight. And if you can find that point where she's talking about where it's like, okay, I got the signal that I'm close to full, maybe I should stop there. That's likely the deficit, the calorie deficit, right? We want to eat just to that, like I'm satisfied, but maybe I could have had a bite or two more, versus the if you're trying to lose weight, you should never feel like this.
Or even maintaining. I think it's
maintaining.
Like maintaining or deficit. Yeah, just to be aware of this.
Step number one. And one of the podcasts I listened to this past weekend was actually very intertwined with the energy talk we're having now. It was essentially all about mitochondria. And it was talking about how when you overeat, it confuses your mitochondria because your energy systems are not balanced anymore. And the analogy I tend to give my clients is when they're eating more, usually it's the carbohydrates because they're not exercising enough to burn off these carbs in their system. So they're just adding more gasoline to their tank that's already overflowing, and the body and the mitochondria don't recognize that, hey, I have another energy source that we can use, but they're giving me these easily accessible carbohydrates in the form of easily digestible sugars. So I don't need to shift into fat burning mode. They're just giving me more and more and more easily accessible fuel.
Yeah.
The mitochondria they don't know what to do because it just has this sugar constantly to feed off of. Your body's never shifting back and forth from fat burning to not. It's just happy to take on this easily consumable form of energy. And this talk was basically mentioning that we need to have these periods of hunger to encourage that shift so that the mitochondria can stay able to function in both states. The reason a number of people will get really, really strong hunger signals is because their body is just so used to the carbohydrates and the blood sugars being high enough to where it's just always got this energy. The second you don't eat for 2 hours, those carbs are out of your bloodstream, you get this super strong hunger signal and it makes you eat again. But you're 50 pounds overweight. You have plenty of fuel. You need to let your body shift into a fat burning state for an hour or 2 hours before you eat again. So you're at least trying to stay metabolically balanced, or metabolically flexible is another term I've heard people call it, which is you should be energized in both states. Just because you lose a little bit of the blood sugar from the carbs that were in your lunch doesn't mean you should immediately be lethargic and crashing at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
You should be able, okay, I ate lunch at 12:30, by 3 o'clock, that's been digested. I need to be able to function based on the stored energy that I have in my muscles, in my liver, or if you have excess body fat, you got a lot of that extra energy sitting there.
You should never be like, oh, I need food now. No, also it's a mental thing. Like if you cannot control your food intake, then you probably cannot really control your life. If you are so dependent on food because you're like, I need it now. No, you don't. Like we talked about, I think in the last podcast, in the fasting period, when you fast for a couple of days or hours, you realize like, oh, I actually don't need anything. And do you think the mitochondria is also related to the breath? Because if our stomach is too full, I was just thinking about it. Maybe it takes also away our diaphragm cannot really function, so we have a short breath, and the breath also cannot provide enough oxygen for our mitochondria, right? Yeah. Could be all.
I would bet it could be correlated. There's definitely part of this podcast talked about breathing. It talked about meditation and some of the benefits that it has, and it actually had a lot of good things to say about meditation and breath protocols as far as being able to intentionally turn your mitochondria's production to be slower instead of ramped up all of the time. But when you can control your mitochondria's energy output, it makes a humongous difference on your entire day. They were talking like if you spend like 40 minutes meditating, it can negate a full sleep cycle. So for those people who meditate 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, or if they can do a full 40 minutes, that's apparently the sweet spot to now not have to sleep for another 90 minutes.
Wow.
So that's one way where these people who say that, oh, I can get by with 6 hours of sleep, but maybe they meditate, this
or
is kind of showing.
Properly. Yeah, because it depends on, or it functions on different levels. You know, meditation is, okay, it has an effect on the nervous system. It has an effect on the oxygen level in your blood, in your cells. It has a mental factor. Okay, you block out everything that's going around you. You can focus on yourself. It's this emotional soul effect. Like, yeah, there are so many effects that little things have.
It was a really cool podcast. It was Dr. Martin Picard on the Huberman podcast, which I'll send it to you when we get done talking. Yeah. But it tied in a lot of the stuff that BOI is doing in this room, because it did talk about the importance of oxygen. So some of their biggest things that came out of the podcast, just for those of you who may not go and listen to the full thing, it's good to be hungry for your mitochondria. It's good to be out of breath. So something, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's the oxygen mask training, whether it's just holding empty lung holds, that is a signal of your energy. And one of his kind of tricks he had everyone do while you're listening is to just close your eyes and then fully exhale all of your air out and just hold an empty lung hold, which if you've done the biooptimization protocol, you'll be a little familiar with some of these, but it's all about holding that hypoxic point, which is
this urge then, right?
Like you've exhaled it all out, and that urge you feel is your body's demand for energy. So if you feel that right away, it means, hey, your tolerance for that is kind of low. Your mitochondria were freaking out. Whereas if you can sit in that for a few seconds and a little longer, you're showing that you have this regulation that is very beneficial for the mitochondrial health in the long run. So be out of breath, be hungry once in a while, go through some of the sleeping protocols, which is, I think we might have talked a little bit about napping last time, but trying to either make sure you're sleeping for 90-minute intervals, or if you're taking a nap, that it's 30 minutes or less, because this is hitting those sweet spots in the recharging of the mitochondria, where if it's in the middle of a deep sleep, you're going to wake up and have that out-of-sync cortisol cycle, which is going to play with your energy levels. So these are little tricks to help make sure we're sleeping good, we're in control of our mitochondria and what they do versus the fight or flight all day long, which is, hey, I'm running on stress. The mitochondria are just going, 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 and the second you sit down, you crash. Is usually a good sign of, one, exhaustion, but two, that you are just running on stress hormone, most likely.
And observe yourself throughout the day. Take some breaks and realize, like, how am I breathing? Am I doing the short breath, or am I really fully using my whole diaphragm, my whole body to breathe fully? And it's a huge thing.
The mouth versus nasal breathing can be a big one too. If you realize that you're shallow breathing and it's all the way
Through
in
the
and
mouth.
out of the mouth,
Yeah.
that's twofold a challenge now. So nasal breathing definitely encouraged, and then long, slow breaths as much as you can will encourage your cellular level to stay as efficient as possible, both in the mitochondria and just cellularly all over.
And even as an athlete, to just add this, as an athlete, try to work out through your nasal breathing. This can help you to increase your performance enormously. If you do this, I mean, the first few times it will be very hard, like do some burpee jumps with nasal breathing, but over the time you get better and it will increase your performance.
Even aspects of movement can be ways to encourage yourself to maintain or get energized when maybe you don't feel energized. I think I remember you had a thing that you would do to get energized in the moment. Remind me, what was it, jumping jacks, or was it breathing that you liked to do?
Usually I like to go out and walk in nature.
Okay.
But this is like one movement thing, but I like to do burpees as well.
Okay,
I really like burpees to just get this like fresh energy.
Get the blood flowing, get the fast twitch muscle fibers going too, which is a big thing that as we age, we're losing those pretty dramatically. Can be tied to the lack of reflexes as you age, and then the increased likelihood of tripping and falling as you age. It all comes back down to those type 2 muscle fibers. So doing things like burpees or jumps or some kind of plyometric quick activity, very good to have in your routine. Both
even
energy,
for your bones.
but for bones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't want to end up with osteoporosis, and you need this impact. Yeah.
That's right. So finding the types of movements that encourage your body to feel more energized, not just beaten down. And that's one element that we really liked as we were putting this facility together, is that as people are starting to come and do more calisthenics training, they're realizing that after a session, my body feels open and more mobile, and I actually do feel more energized than I might after a traditional strength training hour workout. Because you're working on very different things, right? We're not working as much for straight up muscle belly fatigue. We're doing a lot more skill focused, neurological based, and tendon and ligament training versus muscle belly fatigue. So it has a very different effect on your body, and then understanding how and when to use different types of those movements based on your energy levels can be a good trick as far as like, how should I train today based on how I'm feeling already? Do I want to add more weight training today, or do I want to stick with more calisthenics and skill stuff today? And it doesn't have to be so regimented that it's whatever my training thing says, which is great if you're good at following programs, but I know there's a lot of people who that's just not going to be something that they can stick to. So understanding these types of things so that you know how to adjust your training day to day can be another very beneficial way to intuitively train yourself to maintain that energy level you desire.
And if you're always like training like only muscles, like muscle building, strength training, I realized like your muscles get tight. And whenever something gets tight, it's also the fascia around this. We are like a spider net. It's all around our body, and it's like wrapping everywhere. And as soon as we get tight, also the spider net clings. And you can imagine that there's a lot of like toxins sticking in and all the bad stuff, and nothing is really flowing anymore if everything is tight. And what I realized, like by training calisthenics, like you need to open up. Everything gets unfold, and when you imagine the spider net gets out and everything can flush out. Of course, drinking is very important, so it can really run through your system and get out, but it opens up. And as soon as we are open up, everything can flow. And only if our liquids, everything can flow, everything can go where it belongs to. The oxygen, the micronutrients. If everything is clinged, like we where does it want to go? It sticks, and then we get pain, and then we do one bad movement, and then we are like injured. Opening up, doing some mobility work, and that's what I learned through calisthenics, to not only be strong, but to be strong in the full range of motion.
Bingo.
And when we are in the full range of motion, we open up. It depends, like in all kind of directions. And this is when we feel energetic. Just after a stretching period, doing the stretch, it might be a little bit like, but afterwards, it feels like a flush through your whole body. Like this oxygen, the blood flow, everything, you feel vitalized, right? It's like as if you were newborn.
And that's the feeling that we've had a few people point out. They're like 3/4 of the way or at the end of class, they're feeling this sensation. And they're like, man, I'm feeling more energized 3/4 of the way through the workout than fatigued. What's happening here? Yeah. And I explain this to them. I'm like, your highway is cleared up. Things are able to communicate better. Like you were saying, it's kind of like taking a clogged up highway full of traffic and you just spread all those cars out and now there's plenty of room for everyone.
Yeah, to breathe, room to breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
everything behaves and functions better when we're open highway, communication can happen, and the body is able to send resources where it knows it needs them without things getting stuck somewhere else along the way.
Yeah. Especially in the hip, in the hip or in our neck, we sometimes store so many toxins, some people in the spiritual world say like we store emotions here, but it's all just chemicals, and they cannot flush because we are tight and we're sitting the whole day, and then here there's no blood flow. A lot of girls I work with, they have like really heavy legs all the time. This is because the blood flow, the lymphatic system, the fascia, everything is blocked. So there's no connection between upper body and lower body. And I was suffering from this through only strength training for so long. Calisthenics, because of functional movements, you use your whole body, so everything opens up, the hip opens up, and all these things, they disappear. And you don't have to do all the time like lymphatic massage in the morning. This helps as well, but only lymphatic drainage and only these things, the root cause, the tightness. Yeah. Wow, absolutely. How did we end up here? That's cool.
It's all right, tied it into calisthenics too, I love it.
Yeah, calisthenics is just the way to train. And I think more and more people open up to it and then they feel it. And then you cannot get back.
That's
go
right.
back. Yeah.
I still, once people get to that point, I still let them know, I'm like, you still would likely benefit from 1 or 2 days of, your standard weight training because it is hard to mimic a heavy squat and a heavy deadlift pattern with calisthenics. But
lower body.
For the most part, the calisthenic side of things trains 80-85% of what you need. The muscle fatigue or the size of muscle might be the one thing that you want to spot train with your weight training if you have some aesthetic goals, perhaps. But the balance is really what we're encouraging. Calisthenics isn't here to replace your weight training completely. It is a good complement, and I do think it is a piece that a lot of people are missing.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, you described this really well. Yeah.
I am definitely not here to say you should not weight train. You absolutely still should. It is just, understanding the differences between the two and how I can make the best well-rounded program to get the best of all worlds.
Yeah, mix it. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think the next route I wanted to go was just a little bit of helping people understand energy as the science of it goes, but in the most simple way possible. And sometimes I think people forget how much the world is just a swirling mess of energy. And it really starts from the sun, right? The sun sends light energy. The plants around the world soak up the light energy and spit out oxygen, and they create like actual plant matter from the energy that they get from the sun. So they're turning light energy into biochemical energy, and they're allowing respiratory energy to be a thing also, because we can eat the plant, but we can also breathe the thing that the plant emits. Yeah. So it's doing two things. It's taking light energy, and now there's food energy and there's air energy. Those animals come and eat the plants, or we eat the plants. We get that material energy now, right? We breathe in and out, and we get oxygen, which is another big energizer for our body, right? Once we expend that energy, we release our own gases as carbon dioxide, right? The plants retake that up and spit more oxygen out. So this cycle is just happening all around. And what you as an individual need to do is understand, well, where does my energy come from? What food pieces give me more energy versus cost me more energy? There are people who eat things that don't agree with them because they think they need to, but sometimes kale doesn't agree with everybody. Sometimes spinach doesn't
more
agree.
Energy then. Yeah.
And then your body is now having to burn and spend more energy because you ate something that's technically irritating to it, and you haven't been aware enough to realize it and then make the desired change accordingly, so your body doesn't have to spend energy when you eat this thing, but you're just eating pieces now that add the energy. So this is where the elimination diet can be helpful for people that really have no idea how their food affects them. Taper all the way back. Just chicken for a day, maybe 2. Just let a lot of stuff reset, and then you just slowly add 1 or 2 ingredients at a time, and then see how your body reacts.
And important here to say as well, like, because maybe some people who want to lose weight, they are like, hey, that's great. I eat something where I use more energy than I get in. But there you have to be really careful. I work with sometimes clients who really get into eating disorders.
Oh, yeah.
So here, be careful. It doesn't mean that it's okay, you have a negative energy balance. No. When it takes more energy out of you, it's not just the energy part, but there are toxins built up. They are like, and this will be stored in your fat depots. This will be stored in like everywhere in your body where you can, like where there's tension. So you are not actually benefiting from using more energy while you digest, because there's more to it. Why do you use more energy? Because your gut microbiome is not properly, not in balance. So then it adds up toxins. And this is what gives you more inflammation in your whole body. Then you get skin rashes, you get issues. So this is not what you are aiming for. You aim for a calorie deficit if you want to lose weight, and not only for an energy disbalance. That's, I think, a point that's really important, because sometimes thoughts go into this direction and it's like, might as well eat the kale even if I cannot, but I use more energy for it. No, it's not this type what we want.
Right. There's too many negative effects that come out of it that make it not worth your while to continue to eat that.
Yeah.
So then journaling, if it helps, based on the foods, but whatever it takes for you to really start to notice, what is this food doing for me?
Or even microbiome tests you can also do,
100%.
When you want to be really see what is going on. I mean, the gut will still be, the science is not fully aware of what's going on, but we have a lot of markers we can see, and the bacteria, some can cause bloating, some can cause inflammation, histamine reactions, leaky gut. So if you don't know where to start, you can start with the diets, with journaling. This brings you more awareness to it. And then you can add as well things like testings, where you can actually bring the stool, put it to the laboratory, send it there, and you can see what's really going on. Then you don't have to try and find out. Just go
eliminates the guesswork. And especially if you feel like you've tried this before and it didn't quite pan out, it might be better if you just take the test to start, so you have a little bit more of an idea where you need to begin at. My wife did one of those and it was pretty enlightening. She was like, that one makes sense, that one makes sense, that one makes sense. And you kind of pick and choose which ones make the most impact. There was a couple that showed, a little reactive, but she was like, I don't actually ever feel any type of way.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's the one to watch out for, because just because you don't feel like it's doing something negatively doesn't mean it's not still causing some minor inflammation. So it can be hard if it tells you, hey, you're allergic to onions and garlic and this and that. And you're like, that's all the food flavoring stuff. Like, what am I going to do? Pick and choose, but the more you can listen to it, it's probably the better.
And it depends on the test as well, because there's some tests, they show you where you're reacting, but some tests, it's the IGs, so there are different ones, and some you see, I'm reacting to everything I'm eating. Because they use the wrong markers, because they just use, what was inside of your body. And then they're like, you're reacting to this. No, this is just what was flowing through my blood system. So it depends also on the tests you take.
Point.
Yeah.
Good point. And I know you actually just recently did a few of these tests, and so I don't know that you got your results back or not.
Not yet, no, but I'm really curious. I usually do it once a year.
Okay.
I check my blood and my gut.
Cool.
And yeah, I'm excited because living in the US is also, I moved from Germany to the US, and I'm really excited what this did to me as well and to the whole system.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be excited. Maybe next time we have you back, you'll have the results from that. We can do a little bit of a look into how surprised you were or weren't based on those results.
For sure.
Especially with someone who has a decent amount of energy, I would say. Seeing some markers, sometimes we might feel really good and full of energy, and you're like, oh, there is a couple of things I could still improve on.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a good showcase that even people who seem like they're in good states still have some things they could be working on. So don't feel bad if you feel like you're kind of constantly working on this thing. I've always put the analogy, it's kind of like your house. Your house is never finished. You're always 5 or 10 years go by, that thing's out of date, that thing's fallen off, that thing's cracked, and you have to upkeep it constantly. Your body is no different.
Sometimes there comes a storm and then you have to replace some windows. You never know what's coming.
Right. And sometimes it's out of your control. You get into a car accident, all of a sudden now you have to do some rehabilitative work before you can go back to weightlifting and then get back to your maintenance phase.
Yeah.
Things happen. So understanding how to get back is very much tied to energy, because the more energy you have during the comeback, the more productive your training sessions will be, so you're back to normal as fast as possible.
And you don't have to be all the time so disciplined. If your energy is there, things are more fun. And you don't have to think like, oh, I have to do this now, I don't want to, and you have to push. Because I always hear this like, oh, New Year or athletes like, no, you have to push through. But why do you have to push through? Are you tired? Are you stressed? Are you doing something you really don't like? Like, why do you have to push through? Yes, sometimes things are not always easy, but if you have the right amount of energy, I think everything gets way easier.
I actually saw something this morning on this topic that I thought was pretty powerful. It was someone very popular talking to someone else very well known these days who's done the whole, like, made lots of money, successful, clearly has good willpower, and the gentleman interviewing him was like, you have very good willpower and it shows, and that allows you to push towards the thing that you want, but that still takes a lot of intentional effort. He was like, when you find that thing that pulls you towards it, it takes so much less energy, right? If you're pushing in through something you dislike, don't want to do, don't want to be there, you're not excited about it, it's going to feel like a lot more energy required to move or do that thing. But when you find the thing that pulls you in that direction, it almost feels effortless, because you're like, this is what I'm called to do, or this is what's telling me it's the next step in my journey. So you don't feel like you're having to push through barriers, but you're being attracted to this new you. And it, I think, could be applied to a number of areas, both the fitness journey, but also your career path, your hobbies. You want it to be people
you're surrounded by.
Right. Yeah. If you feel, someone you've been trying to create a friendship with actually is causing more resistance in your life, maybe that's not a relationship worth pursuing.
Or sometimes if one area is hard, then make sure other areas are light. Maybe this hard area becomes lighter as well because you have more energy. There was a phase in my life where I was really into like figuring out relationships, and I never understood how it works. There are sometimes it's hard, but then they said like, leave it when it doesn't feel right, and it never felt right. So I left every relationship. But it's not about this. It's more about how much energy do you have, and then to see, does it work? If you put everything into it and it doesn't work, okay, then you can say, okay, no, this takes more energy from me. If you never have energy, how do you want to build something? It's really tough.
One of the hardest things, but we're here to try to help demystify some of these challenges going through these journeys. Before we move on from the science lesson, I wanted to make sure. So we mentioned energy from the sunlight, through the plants, through the animals, into us. And now it's how do we optimize our body to utilize the energy that we've consumed in a way that's going to encourage us to want to move all day and not feel like we have to sleep and digest it every time that we eat. If you notice that you get sleepy every single time that you eat, there could be a habitual nature tied to the timing of your foods. I've had a few clients that they're like, man, if I eat too big of a lunch, I have to take a nap afterwards. And they're like, I've been told that lunch should be your biggest meal of the day, so I try and do that, but it makes me tired. So like, what can I do? Something in there is probably still being consumed too much in excess to where you're still hitting that like I'm full type of situation. So your body really has no choice but to shift into focus on digestion. So it's gonna make you sleepy. So there is a point of, yes, lunch maybe should be a slightly larger meal for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean eat so much that you're that full that now your energy levels suffer, right? So this is where, yeah, one piece of advice is good, but then if you do it to too much of an extreme, now it's counterproductive.
And a lot of people think they need to eat a lot of lunch because at night, maybe it fit better to have a big dinner, but then they get taught, oh, you shouldn't have a big dinner. After 6, you will get fat. Or it will affect your sleep. If you go to bed at 9, you can still have a good dinner at 6. They are still, depending on what you eat. So it's always what you eat and when you eat it. But don't be afraid of having a meal at a time where usually people don't eat. Like figure out how it fits to your lifestyle. I went once to a school and was teaching them a little bit about nutrition, and everyone was like, I have to have a breakfast. I'm like, well, it depends. If you have to really have a test where you have to be sharp, maybe a little bit of a breakfast helps you. But if you're just sitting there, you get lethargic after a big breakfast. Like it doesn't have to be this routine, like big breakfast, big lunch, like. How does your day look like, right?
Right, and something that I'll circle back to was we want your body to be energized in all of the states, whether you have carbs from the lunch that you just had or the breakfast, or if you've been 2 or 3 hours without food, we don't want it to feel like it severely affects our energy levels. And if it does, that's just a sign that we have some improvement as far as our metabolic flexibility so that we don't feel as affected by the timing of our meals. So it is something that takes working up to for sure. Getting so you're not dependent on the food to do the thing. The exception being if you're trying to go have a really solid weightlifting session, it might behoove you to have some carbs around that session to make that a more productive session. But that's a timing thing. And if you work out sometimes in the morning and sometimes in the evening, that's going to shift when you're eating those carbs. And it being so much that like full belly before bed causing an issue, I think it can also depend on like how does the macro stack look like in that meal. You know, if you just ate a lot of carbs and went to bed, those carbs are not going to be used for energy because you're sleeping. So all of that will likely get shuttled into storages because you're supposed to be in a more fat burning state when you sleep. So those carbohydrates are just getting tacked on for later. But if your body is never shifting back into being able to burn body fat, this is why you're gaining weight over time, slowly. It's a inability to shift in and out of that fed and fasted state that tends to be the biggest thing people notice when they do start fasting is, oh, that has finally not been gripping me as much. My hunger cues have gotten a little more manageable.
Yeah.
They're not as strong anymore.
You can also, I did it once, like I had this glucose measurement. Have you ever tried this?
I haven't. I've seen a number of people go through it and I've been curious to experiment myself, but just haven't yet.
It's so interesting because you react, like everyone is so different. Like I was reacting to like rice cakes. My blood sugar spiked so much and fell down. And other people, they don't experience this. They experience this with oats or with other things. So it's really interesting to see your blood sugar level going up and down and by what you eat, but not only what you eat, also training has an effect on your blood sugar level. Of course, if you do a lot of cardio, you know, everything goes into the blood. It's not only the food. Food is one source, but then also like what you eat at night has an effect on the blood sugar. I sometimes woke up because I did a few experiments and I was only eating carbs at night. And so in the night, my glucose monitor was alarming because I got into the, how do you call it, under sugar?
The trough. Yeah.
Trough. And it was so interesting, like how this affects your sleep as well, because if you are so low with your blood sugar, this causes also like stress in your system while you're sleeping.
And sometimes that can be what wakes you up to go get a snack from the kitchen.
Yeah.
Is that exact thing. And if your body's not able to shift into that fasted state so that it's able to release some blood sugar while you're asleep, you're going to have the crash. And then boom, you wake up and you have to go get a snack because you feel like unable to do without.
Yeah.
It can be very eye-opening. Getting to that level of monitoring can be pretty altering in how you decide to eat.
And to train.
And
I was very like hard and high intense cardio and all these group classes, and I was always wondering why I was craving stuff like at night because my energy tank was so low, and you could see it in the blood sugar as well. Like all of a sudden we sometimes think, or I always thought like something is wrong with me. I'm emotional eating. What's going on? No, it was just an effect of these getting rid of all your energy, and then you can starve for a long time, but your body takes it all, like it gets it back whenever it has the chance to. And yeah, this is where a lot of emotional eating comes down to. It's a lack of energy or a wrong placement of the energy.
It's kind of a misunderstanding in like how I should be training and eating for my particular system. And this kind of brings me into a lot of the buzz around the high intensity interval training stuff and how it can be overdone to a point that's defeating your overall energy rather than helping you get more energy back. Some of those folks who are like, I train 4 days a week, but I'm not building any muscle mass. I don't feel any more energized.
Or I get fatter.
Or that.
I got more fat because my cortisol level was so high, and I was like, okay, so I need to train more. So I did more until I figured it out throughout years. I did it for years. And of course, the group classes, they are cool. You can implement some. It's fun sometimes. But if you're only focused on them and then you're like, oh, I have to do more. I got so, I got, how do you say it, fluffy? Like I was really like, I was like, oh, I don't even want to work out anymore when I get this. And then I stopped for a while because I got injured from all these high intense. And then I lost the weight and I was like, that's insane. What cortisol levels, but also the blood sugar, all this can cause.
It comes full circle, and it's a lot of little pieces to the puzzle. But what often happens is we're over exercising in a fashion that's only really utilizing carbohydrates as energy because it's so intense. It leaves your body still not burning any fat while you're exercising. You're exhausting yourself to a point that your cortisol is staying high, which is not going to help your body's liver do its fat burn and or protein synthesis. So both things are usually dampened when your cortisol is overtaken like that. And then, like you said, you feel the competitive desire to like, oh, well, I just need to do more. I need to do more. And like that tends to just backtrack almost. And I'll have to reframe with some clients where I'm like, well, less is more.
Yeah.
Like training at a lower intensity is honestly going to be better for you because you're going to be burning fat during that session and after the session, and you're not giving yourself a ton of carbs because you're not lifting in a way that needs you to have those carbs. So sometimes the less is more mentality can go a long ways, like not in the fact that doing nothing is going to be better than the low intensity, but sometimes low moderate intensity exercise is where you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck as far as metabolic health, as far as building muscle, because if you're going too intense for too many reps, you're likely not doing enough weight to stimulate the muscle growth that you're actually looking for. So there is a delicate balance between strength training, I'm hypertrophy training, I'm performance training, or I'm just high intensity training for the hell of it.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's what's going to do the best because it looks so intense. Kind of counterproductive, actually. It's sort of the opposite. The more moments in the day you can stay in a fat burning mode, the more weight you're going to end up losing. So walking, fat burn zone. Sleeping, fat burn zone. Sitting at your desk doing things, fat burn zone.
Breathing. Yeah.
You don't need carbs to sit at your desk. You don't need carbs to sleep. And if you're constantly giving your body carbohydrates but not burning any of it off, it's just adding body fat. So these are the cycles.
Don't be afraid of carbs, because there are places for it. But also ask yourself, is it a pattern that you think in your life more is more? Nutrition and how we feed our body is usually also a reflection of how we live our life. Do you need this high intensity to feel yourself again? Because throughout the day, you're working so much that you are not able to feel yourself. So you think this is, it balances out your life at work. So you think the more you work, the more high intensity you need. And to do less of the high intense workouts makes you feel, I don't feel myself. And because the strength training, it takes a lot of mental focus as well to feel your body, to feel the movement. HIIT, you just feel knocked out anyways. And this is why so many like high performer, people who work a lot, like mothers, parents, dads, like who have a lot going on in their life, they think they need this high intensity, they need this. But on the other side, there's an imbalance in different areas of your life, and you should not quit your job, but to implement times where you connect with yourself, and then everything else will balance as well. Because so many people in these HIIT classes, I don't say they are bad. They have their purpose, and if you're not moving at all, maybe a HIIT class every now and then is really good to get your blood pressure up, like to get everything flowing. But if you need it to balance out your life, it might be also too much. Like, don't do too much in every aspect of your life. The extremes are good to experience once, but then find the balance. Otherwise, you will run down your system in the job, in the career, in fitness, in nutrition. If you eat every day the same, your gut microbiome will also alter and will be imbalanced. So, one area of your life is a reflection of others usually, because there's deep limited beliefs inside of you where you're like, more is more, or I'm not good enough, I need to be more. I ask, like, go deep with journaling, with just some quietness.
Yeah, the meditation piece, I think, can't be stressed enough on how good it is, because it accomplishes a number of these things at one time.
Yeah.
Right? You're spending the moment with yourself, you're tuning in with the internal feelings, not the external environment, which is all going to help you be better at regulating your nervous system, which is a big part of the stress management side of things, and something that we like to emphasize is we're not necessarily just managing stress, but it's better to think about it as you're training recovery, right? So it applies to more things than that. So it's, are you doing the sauna once in a while? Are you doing any of these other activities, getting sunlight in the morning, waiting a little while before you have your caffeine? All these little tips are there to help maximize your body's natural energy production before you add in any of these other enhancements. It's good to have those down first. So I think,
and if you know I need these like more and more and more things, then make it a to-do on your to-do list. If you run like to-dos, then do meditation or combine it with something. Say like, okay, I go swimming and then I'm fully focused on myself, or like combine things that you're doing anyways with things that you want to do, or that you know they are good for you, or you want to try if they are good for you. Because sometimes we have to convince ourselves as well over a period of time that it's actually working. No one really, I thought like meditation, come on. Like, really? I don't need this. I run well, But then as soon as you feel it and you're like, oh, actually, maybe. Let's try it again, It comes over time through experience, right?
It does.
Did you grow up meditating a lot?
No, I would say my form of meditation was pointed out to me sometime in my early 20s, actually. I was did a period with a therapist, and he pointed out, he was like, your motorcycle riding and all these kind of adventurous things you like to do is your form of meditating, because I do have one of those hyperactive brains, and I tend to have too many things rolling in the back of my head at the same time. So when I'm doing things that require such focus, this is where handstands come into play, this is where motorcycles come into play, this is where skydiving comes into play. These are all meditative for those folks doing that activity. You see them standing in a handstand for 2 minutes, they're in bliss. They're sitting there, they're focused, they're dialed in, they're not thinking about anything else but what they're doing in that moment. He pointed out, he was like, the adrenaline rush you're getting from the motorcycle, from these random things, all is another way to allow someone to drown out the noise of out there and really pull you inward and focus. When you're on a motorcycle going that fast on the highway, any little blip could be, catastrophic. So you have to be very focused, very dialed in, paying attention to what I'm doing. I can't think about all these other things going on. I can center, I'm focused on my breath. Yeah, it's a high adrenaline activity versus just like sitting in full stillness, but it doesn't mean it's any less effective in taking your brain off of those stressors of the day, which is really what the meditation is there for, is to try and change your energetic state, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a difference from the nervous system part, because you're in high adrenaline, like sympathicus is on. It's a great start because you learn to really focus, to be there. Over the time, I think it's really important to shift step by step to calmer things, to give the other nervous system part the chance as well. But yeah, for the brain, it fully is. But this is also the high intensity classes. They try to survive in these classes, so they are fully there, and this is why they need it. It's a little bit like a drug, like, okay, I need this, and then I can calm down, I need this to shut off. And over the time to still learn to do it with more quietness. Like, yeah.
Which in the last
shift.
7 to 10 years, I've become better about that, because he pointed that out. He was like, that's where you get your meditation at right now.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I was like, okay, you're right. I do kind of have a hard time sitting still and doing the meditative stuff. And he's like, that's where you get it. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But just like you were saying,
part,
you do need both sides. And his point with the motorcycle thing was, he's like, that's a high adrenaline activity where you're encouraging your body to downregulate because it wants to be like, we're going so fast. But you're like, no, we're cool. So you're forcing your body to maintain calmness in a highly stressful area.
Yeah.
So think of it like a cold plunge is basically how he was, to give it a metaphor. It's going in and doing the stressful thing, but getting your body to remain calm despite that stressful thing. So that was his angle, I think, with that. Not to take away from the still meditation at all. It's something that I've had to practice. Once it was pointed out to me, I was like, oh, you're totally right. That's tough for me. So I've gotten to where now I don't do it often enough, but there at least a few times a month, I'll take 10 or 15, 20 minutes and just do nothing. Maybe I'll put the eye mask on, or I'll put something over my ears that's just like very low-key, lo-fi music or something like that, and force that inward energy, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're all going to be a little different, and how you recognize your meditation currently is sometimes going to surprise you. I wasn't expecting him to point that out as my meditation at that time. But it could be anywhere, and for some people, it's nowhere. And that's why you have a hard time getting your brain to turn off at night, is because you don't have any of those things that you know how to access that help drown all that out. So think about that. Whatever you notice in your life that's maybe, that could be considered the thing that I do that puts me in the flow state that drowns out the rest of my noise of the day. Sometimes it's work. Some people love what they do. They hit flow state while they're in work. It's 8 hours of just focusing on their patients or their clinic or their whatever the job might be.
Yeah.
But those people tend to like what they do.
Yeah.
If you never hit that, then you probably aren't actually enjoying the thing that you're doing. So now you need to find a hobby. If your work doesn't do it, now you need to find a hobby that can do that for you. Whether it's the motorcycle, playing a sport, the run clubs, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And find the balance, because it's good to be so focused on one thing. We are humans. We need a variety of things.
1000%.
You know, if you're like, oh, I'm so fulfilled in this can go for a while, but be aware there are cycles in life, periods, and it's not always one thing that is good forever. Sometimes it varies.
Yep.
And to be open to it. Yeah, just because this routine works for now, don't hold on to it, because maybe you are changing. And next day, sometimes, as you say, sometimes I really feel in the morning to just do some frequencies on my ears and then to listen to the frequencies and be calm and focus. And other days I'm like, no, my meditation is my handstand practice. It's, totally.
Variety in all the areas.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the moderation and everything that people love talking about. It's going to behoove you to be better at multiple things than to be super amazing at just one thing, especially when it comes to trying to maintain a balanced body. If you're only powerlifting, you're going to default into one direction. If you're only calisthenics training or gymnastics training, or if you're only sprinting, and if you're only running, because
only yoga,
because it's meditative, a lot of times people will just run, but now you're running to a point that it's causing injury because you're just thinking about the meditative aspect that you like about it. A big challenge that I tend to have with runners is that they enjoy it so much that they won't stop doing it even when they're hurt. With our Return to Play program, that can be a little challenging, but one of the biggest communities that I hope to help with this program by pointing out some of these things. Like, yes, you love it, but that doesn't mean it's good for you right now.
Yes.
Right? Whatever the activity it could be, if you're doing it too much, it can create an imbalance of some kind. If you play baseball or something where you're swinging to only one side, you're going to be very strong on one side, but most of those athletes do not take practice swings on the other direction. Whatever sport, they almost all have some sort of imbalance that they encourage, so you need to make sure your training is counterbalancing.
Or at least strengthening the other side. So, because I think, like, if you're really professional in baseball, you should always be strong in this. I think there's no way you should train that you're balanced.
Yeah,
but to make this other one so strong that it doesn't get injuries and so imbalanced that it's not good for you. A little bit imbalance, I think it's everywhere. It's a little bit okay. It shouldn't go too much.
Because then that's the pain cycles that we get stuck in because something now can't keep up.
Yeah.
You don't want to get so imbalanced that now something's not able to maintain, and that's asking for the injury cycle.
And I just remember, like, at the workshop you did the other day, where Dane was talking about, okay, you train for health, you train for performance, or you train for ego. Yeah, this was so mind-blowing to me. I'm like, yeah, if you train for health, your performance will probably suffer a little bit and your ego will suffer a little bit. If you train for your ego, your health and your performance will probably, no, for sure, will not be fully there. So you need to choose, are you training for health, for performance, or for your ego? And when I heard this, I was like, this is so simple and this is so on point. Like,
That's one of our favorite things to point out because we have to reel that in because a lot of times we're helping people that are athletes. We're helping people that are focused on the performance side of things, but they're so focused on those that they're not listening to their body and they keep getting injured because of it. So we have to shift for a point in time to focus on lifting for health, which means tendon health, ligament health, and metabolic health before we start tilting back up on focusing on the performance side of things. Almost always, I would recommend you do not lift for ego.
Yeah, the ego part.
That is always the recipe for disaster, but there's a lot of people that's what they're lifting for. They only want to do the big lifts. They only want to do the stuff that blows up the shoulders, or they only want to do the things that maximize hypertrophy, but at the risk of tendon and ligament health is what usually happens, and that's when you bicep tear, you tweak this, tweak that, whatever cascade you end up having to experience. It behooves everyone to lift for health first. Then if you play a sport, you add the performance aspect once you're healthy and well-rounded.
Yeah. The foundation is the health part. Yeah. It's the same with like this biooptimization. What's the reason why you do these things? Because peptides and all these things, like, do you do it from an ego perspective? Do you do it health perspective? Do you do it performance-wise? And it's really important to be aware first. If you do it from an ego perspective, but you're aware of it, keep going. If you're aware of it. But so many people, they pretend or they convince themselves, I do it for health. But actually it's an ego thing. Mm-hmm. And then one day they wake up and they're like, why did I even do this? Like, this is why, all these things like hyperoxygen therapy, like, why do you do this? It's a therapy. All these things that we think they are cool, they are actually therapy things. And you need to be aware, do I need it? Do I want it? And because of which reason do I want something? And and the foundation, what we said earlier, like the foundation is the most important thing, your health. If your health, you only realize how important health is when it's gone. Yeah. And you really should always prioritize health in a certain amount. Even if you go high athlete performance, without health, you cannot perform. There is a foundation part to everything. Yeah.
100%. And once you have that foundation dialed into at least a decent enough degree, the modalities that are coming out that Biooptimization Institute here is starting to put forward and other studies that are coming out for other cool devices, these things become helpful if the foundation has been set. If you're just expecting this stuff to make the biggest difference and you're not also eating right, you're not also training regularly, you're not also sleeping okay, then these things aren't going to have the effect that you would like. So really making sure that you're focusing on the right things first There might be instances where people come in and utilize these things, but those are probably more likely post-surgery or post-chemo or some of those areas where they are doing it for health right away, right? They need any boost that they can to get their cellular self back as fast as possible, whether it's healing from a surgery or getting their body right after going through chemotherapy. Maybe it would obviously be better if they were already moving and eating well, but not all the times is that the case. So in that particular instance, maybe coming in just getting the extra advantage is going to be helpful. But if it's more of a fitness and a lifestyle element, you're not thrust on it for a medical reason. The foundation is really where you're going to get the most benefit in the long term. And then these cool elements can help you train to go hike a giant mountain in Colorado, because now you've done the hypoxia training enough to where your body is very efficient with oxygen. Perfect. You were training for a performance goal for an activity that you want to do. Boom. Yep. Love it. The PEMF mat, being able to help assist your body getting into that parasympathetic state if you're someone who's really challenged with that. Maybe that could be a helpful thing to do even while you're starting on the foundations.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's the same, like, to be aware also of your environment. There are so many electromagnetic fields we are put into, and that's the thing, things we don't see. The other day I came across this quote, like, longevity starts with what you can't see, because we have so many pollution, electromagnetic fields that are always there, and we don't even realize that this puts stress on us. It's not only the food, it's not only the training, it's also our environment. And to be more aware of this as well, to not be in a room where there's always like the Wi-Fi on. Like we talked about, we want simple things throughout the day we can do to optimize our energy. Switch off your Wi-Fi when you go to sleep. These are things. And also, a friend of mine in Germany, she's very deep into biochemistry, energy. And have you ever tested your phone when it's plugged into the charger? It has such a strong field that it creates that you should have it far away from your bed. Same when you are working on your laptop. Make sure it's charged and it's not inside of the charger. Because if it's charging while you're working, the field that it creates, it's so enormous that it has such a big effect on you. And I honestly, now that I know it, I don't know if it's placebo but I feel it. I get drained so much more when I have it plugged in while I'm working. So I just leave it and then it's less. Isn't it crazy? Like
some of these little things we're starting to find out, and how these fields are affecting us. I know there's some people who've already been going back away from the wireless headphones because of some of that concern.
I only use one sometimes, so I don't know if it's, but I feel like if I have two, then it's like, ooh, it's
microwaving my brain.
Yeah, yeah, these little things. Or the chemicals in your mattress, in your clothes, like these little things. Be more like when you go shopping, shop for good quality, not for cheap and for only the look. Are you buying for your ego or buying for your health? Barefoot shoes, yeah, they look horrible, most of them. Some of them, they're getting better. But yeah, if you want to get healthier feet, then yeah, there's no way around it. If you cannot just wear barefoot, like
right, you're sacrificing the ego just a little bit because you know the function of the shoe will be better and for you.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Sometimes my thoughts go into different directions.
I love it. That's all good. I think we touched on some of their cool modalities here.
Oh yeah.
Essentially, it all comes back to mitochondria when we're talking about energy and how to maximize the efficiency of them. The podcast that I listened to recently with Martin Pickard talked a lot about some surprising things, one of which was the hair graying being tied to our stress levels. I think a lot of us kind of knew that one, but it can go back and forth. They've found that these are not permanent changes. If you're able to understand, hey, it was a stressful period in life and now it kind of shifts back, they've seen these pigment changes showing that it's more of an epigenetic thing, not a aging thing. So that means the signal can be turned on and off. And I think they discovered this because they found some people would have like a partial gray hair, but then it turned back to be like their natural color at the bottom of the strand. And that's just showing, just like the rings on a tree, it's showing your timeline of stress, and that particular hair follicle is the one that's follicle is the one that's displaying that change. Not every hair will do it necessarily, but it was an interesting thing, and he pointed out that the DNA that's in our hair is mitochondrial DNA, not nuclear DNA. So the mitochondria being able to go back and forth between this efficiency and the expression of the gene seems to be what's tied to that graying on and off. But what that's showing is that it's got plasticity, right? We've heard a lot about neuroplasticity, but now it's showing that even on a cellular level, the mitochondria can effectively alter the epigenetic code that it's expressing in the hair based on the stress levels of the person at the time. So I know my last year and a half has been a stressful one with just building this whole business, and I've noticed a lot more gray hairs. So I've been just particularly watching and looking for, the speed at which it has been coming on. And I will be curious now if and when there's a little bit of a reprieve, if I notice it change back.
Yeah.
That was a cool something I had no idea about as far as the mitochondria and stress related to that graying of hair.
I just noticed it. There was a period like a few years ago, all of a sudden I was like, no, I'm getting gray. I was already thinking, how do I dye my hair then? How do I do this? But all of a sudden it went away. I was like, I'm getting younger now. It's great. Yeah, and it also does, like all these stressors, it has an effect also on your wrinkles in your face, on your skin. Like, is it more elastic or is it already like losing it? Like cellulitis, so many people, especially women, are suffering from cellulitis. It's not like, we say like, women, because of their, how do you call this tissue in English? The Bindegewebe, it's in German. But so the skin is different. Women, it tends that you get these little bumps easier than men, because men, it's more straight, and I think women are more this, so they pick out. So the skin looks weird. I need to look it up, how it's called in English. But it is kind of this, but it's also related to the toxins in your system. If there's a lot of storage there, your skin tone, everything can change. The healthier you get, the tighter everything gets. Like the wrinkly arm, it's not only working out, it's a lot of working out. But if you have a lot of weird, like, look at your nutrition, look at your sleep,
And could be missing collagen. We could be missing a couple of other things that can help with some elasticity in both the skin, but the fascia too. I know I've heard a lot of the fascia coordinating with the cellulitis side of things being pretty notably affected by how constricted your fascia is and the likelihood that you'll get the cellulitis. So movement, stretching, lymphatic drainage stuff, any of those protocols can help restore the fascia. And the foundational piece would be hydrating. I think a lot of times the fascia gets so constricted because we're chronically dehydrated. And if you're only a tea, coffee, and like sugary drink person, then you're probably not getting a lot of solid water that contains good minerals, which is going to allow your body to actually store hydration and mineralization in your fascia. You're just having very stiff, dehydrated, stuck fascia because you're drinking liquid, yes, but it doesn't have the nutrients in it that your body needs, so it's not going to store and hydrate the fascia properly.
And it has too much in it, because if you, for example, people think like, but tea, there's not really much in it. No, because the particles that are in the water, so the water is not as clear and can absorb also the bad things out of your system. It's already full. The water is traveling through your body and it's full. It doesn't take on anything else. But if it's free, it's like, let's get all these toxins out and flush it out. This is also like tap water. Forget it. Like, make sure you have a good water filter at home to really get this good quality of water through your system. Yeah.
I love it. No, there's been some interesting stuff with, the fluoride in the water and the chlorine and all of that. It's alkaline water has become a topic again, as far as finding out that a lot of our bodies can be very acidic. So having that alkaline water every now and then to help try and rebalance things can be another effective way to make sure we're getting some good new hydration that's encouraging remineralization of the fascia, not just continually stripping it and encouraging the constriction to stay and probably continue to get worse. For most people, it's not stagnant. You've probably heard me say this on the podcast, I think, once or twice already, but we're like plants. Our body is either growing or it's wasting. That means it's either getting looser or it's getting tighter, or it's getting more energized or it's getting less energized. There's no maintenance, right? The things we do daily are either adding to it or they're taking from it. I don't really like thinking of that word maintenance as truly static, right? It might be slow, but it's usually inching one way or the other way. And that's where people will wake up and they're like, all of a sudden I'm 50 pounds overweight. 20 years ago, I was not. What happened? It just slowly happened, half a pound every year. That can sometimes be all it takes. And then they're like, wow, I don't know how to get this weight off. I've not changed anything for so long. And I'm like, well, that's partly why it just was adding so steadily.
You did consistency in the good way or in the bad way. You decide every single day.
That's right.
And also, if you are not changing things, but your body is changing, it has a different effect on your body as well. And I think electrolytes, this is also a very big topic that people think like it's the same with vitamins. They're like, vitamins. No. If you think about we talked about it, energy, the sun, plants, us, we are just an accumulation of billions of cells. If each cell is working properly, our body is great. It works great, it looks great. But if each cell doesn't have the things it needs, how do you want to expect a great body and a great feeling? So the cells, they communicate through like osmosis. There is all the minerals, the electrolytes, not going too deep, but electrolytes and vitamins and stuff, it's crucial. These little things that we cannot really see. It's the same with the electromagnetic fields and stuff. What we cannot see, this is what we are built out of. So we need to look for the little things.
Those little things, they add up huge, and it goes all the way down to literally creating ATP, which everyone remembers that from biology, hopefully. That's what the mitochondria are known for making, right? And how do they make ATP? They need the vitamins and minerals to create the gradients, to create the electron transport that causes battery charging. So if you're not giving it the proper electrolytes or the micronutrients, the cell gets really slow at doing these things. So that means your battery charging is like the chargers from 10 years ago, not the cool
the new ones.
Super fast chargers that we have now. It's kind of like your hardware is old. We need to find ways to let the battery charge up faster, which could be meditation, could be focusing on our sleep. All those different ways will help you be able to charge the battery faster. And it all comes down to the mitochondria being able to do what they can as efficiently as they can.
I think throughout the day we lose the real, the right view of everything, because we think about things like people, work and stuff, but sometimes it's really good to come down to realize what it's all about. Like, we are all built out of energy, and it's not a spiritual thing where some people might not connect with. It's science. Like, we are only here because of this. And to be more aware, I think podcasts, they open up a little bit more. So people can, even if they are not surrounded by people who think like this, they can still be surrounded by it by listening to podcasts to get some information and to put themselves into a surrounding where they're like, okay, I get different knowledges.
And it does take critically thinking about what you're noticing with yourself and trying to apply what you're feeling and what you're seeing and adjusting accordingly. It can be some of the hard part about reading the cues that our body gives us is like, okay, I feel or am experiencing this thing. What is it telling me? And that's where we don't like making people feel like, oh, I have low energy, there's something wrong with me. It's more of, you have low energy, it's just a signal as far as what can we change to improve this.
Yeah.
So don't let it beat you down if you feel like I've tried a few of these things and it hasn't really seemed to help. Maybe it was not quite the right first foundational piece to start with. maybe it was too hard of something to be consistent with for you to do right off the bat, so it just didn't happen long enough for you to see the change.
Yeah.
There can be things there. So this is where finding someone that can help you navigate that a little bit might be helpful, whether it's a trainer, a nutritionist, or a lifestyle coach of any kind. It's a bit of a blurred field, so depending on who you feel will help you the most.
It's always good to see, okay, find someone who is where you want to be. I think that's like, you see, like some people talk and some people live what they do, you know? So look always for, okay, who's really doing or living, being what I want? And then ask these people in your life. And sometimes it's your neighbor, sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's whatever. But be curious and see it a little bit more, because we tend to do everything like, I need to take care of my health now. No, see it like, hey, you got this body, you came to Earth with this amazing tool, and we just figure out how it works. You know, everyone has a different tool, and I always say, like, it's like gears. Let's see it like a game. I turn this gear and let's see what happens. Nothing really. Okay, let's turn this gear. Maybe I hear someone, he says like, okay, you tell me, maybe you take care of your mitochondria. Okay, let's try this with little things and see what happens. Be curious and not like devastated and like, nothing worked. No. This didn't work. Fine. Next. You know, you're not what you experienced, but what you will experience. So keep trying. But it's sometimes easier said than done. If you're in a low state and if you're depressed or if you're suffering, I know how this feels. And then some, like a motivational coach comes and says like, just think positive. And you're like, yeah, no, it's not working like this. No, but to then still try, it's like having a fog in front of you to try to see, okay, the next step, and to try to keep yourself a little bit positive. Focus on the things you are grateful for. Gratefulness is, I think, a big gratitude is a big thing, because you can always find something. You can still maybe smell, or you can see. Other people cannot see, they cannot smell, they cannot touch. What is it that works? Start with this. Then, even if you're at the lowest point in your life, if it's financial, health-wise, there's always something that will be good. Always. And I think this is also, we don't want to make everything sound so easy, but also not like hard. It's like, try to focus on something that's good and for the next step and on your goal. Where do you want to be? This is where you are at. This is where you want to go. Okay, step out of this emotional, because emotions, that's also something, can I dive into the emotions? Please. Emotions is, I was talking to my biochemistry friend, and I'm sometimes like, I trust my feeling. And she's like, Mel, emotions and feelings, this is just a biochemical cocktail that's created by your gut, by your neurotransmitters, by everything. Like, emotions, they fluctuate. You cannot, I'm like, yeah, but you know, sometimes you have an intuition. And I still think that you can have this intuition. It's different from emotions. But emotions, they're just a state of whatever is going on in your body. So be aware that if you don't feel something, maybe focus on it, zoom yourself out and see it from a more clear perspective. Okay, I'm down right now. Even to mention it, like, I feel very depressed. I am not depressed. I feel depressed because this and this is happening. I want to be there to see it more logical. I think men tend to be better at this sometimes than women, because also of our hormones, our cycle. But to really step out and see it rationally, even though you're really emotional, but I feel things because, and then you find solution, and then you can see it from, you know, as if you help a friend. Okay, you're there, you want to be there, maybe try this first. No, try this first, you know, and then to find it rationally. I think going back to your rational mind helps you a lot to find the clear path. Wow. Yeah.
1000%.
There was a lot.
It can be very draining too if you're stuck in those cycles of feeling the depression not leaving and you don't want to move because of it, and then that leads to lower energy, and it can feed this cycle. And it's usually going to be in the best interest to find what is the one thing that gets me excited. It could be something really, really small, and just start aiming towards those pieces of excitement to build the energy back up a little bit, because it can be a little challenging in those moments of life. And
gut health. This is what, like, from my experience, like gut health. The gut, we talked about in the last podcast.
Yep.
There is so much nervous system going on, so much neurotransmitters, all of this. Like if you don't know where to start, movement, nutrition, yeah, but also look at your gut.
Yeah.
Like
the brain 1 and brain 2 thing.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned that.
Yeah.
So it's the serotonin thing. They've realized a lot more of it's tied to your gut than it is to your brain chemistry. So that's a really good example of, we think of depression as, oh, I'm missing serotonin and dopamine, right? But a lot of that comes from our gut, not just our brain. So taking it into maybe it's something that I'm eating that's not being absorbed properly, so my body's not releasing the serotonin from the gut as it should, and that could be more of why my brain is feeling this type of way, because of the signal that it got from my gut saying, hey, we're not getting this thing. You need to crave this or act like this. As a result, now our chemistry is working against us because of the way we're eating, and we don't want that.
Yeah.
So I think a quick little recap of some of
so many topics.
Some of our topics. So we covered sleep, big important on recharging that mitochondria. But if we can't sleep, it can be the night before routine that we might need to address some things. But then also the wake routine can affect how we sleep the next day. So it can kind of be beneficial to look at both sides of your sleep patterns. What are you doing before bed and what are you doing right when you get out of bed?
Yeah.
Getting sunlight right when you wake up, not looking right at your phone, not getting caffeine right away. All of those can be ways to make sure your body is getting up on the right foot without any exogenous chemicals like caffeine or nicotine or any of the other energizer extracurriculars. Oftentimes, those are robbing your energy from the future.
Yeah.
Especially things that are more illicit, like cocaine and some of these things that people are like, oh, it just gives me abundant amounts of energy.
Great.
You're definitely robbing your future self of a lot of this mitochondrial energy, and that's why it becomes addictive, and you need it more after that point, is because now your mitochondria aren't really producing their own energy. You're living off of substances, whether it's caffeine, nicotine, or any of the worst ones.
There is no shortcut.
Yeah, there's no shortcut.
There is no shortcut to energy. You need to put the work in step by step. And you cannot take it and then it's fine, like a pill. Like, okay, the energy pill, great.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Doesn't work. It might be helpful to enhance your energy with a little caffeine or the nicotine stuff that's getting a little more popular. But if you're using it to wake up, then it's defeating the purpose. We dove into how your food can affect your energy levels and how to hopefully adjust your eating habits accordingly. Maybe we're timing our carbs around our workouts. We're not ingesting them before a period of low activity, because that's a guaranteed recipe to add weight. And once we become too overweight, that is now a stress on the mitochondria too, because you have so much energy on your body, but you can't tap into half of it, that the mitochondria start to short circuit, is a good way to think of it. And until you get that metabolic flexibility back, you will continue to feel like this, I have to eat carbs to stay energized or else. So that's the food side of things. We mentioned naps. If you do need to take a little bit of a shut-eye in the middle of the day, it can be helpful. Just don't make it over half an hour, because now you're gonna have entered the deep state of sleep, which is almost guaranteed to make you wake up groggy if you wake up at the hour mark. So it either needs to be 30 minutes or less, or a full 75 to 90 minute nap if you're gonna attempt to do such a thing. Not everyone can feel energized after naps, and that can be a little individual, but sometimes it's tied to that interval more than anything.
And always ask yourself, why do I need the nap? If you, as soon as you are aware of it, you can still do it, but then work on not needing these naps. I mean, if you sleep, always be aware, why do I do things?
Yeah.
Why does it happen? Like, kids always ask why? And this is amazing, because this is why they know more and more and more about themselves, about the world.
Being curious is really the only way. It's definitely something I want to encourage everyone to be curious, ask the questions. Don't just do it because somebody said so. Maybe look into it a little bit. A lot of people have differing opinions on things, so it can be cloudy to know what to really believe.
And be different. If you feel this is your truth, go for it. So many times I questioned myself because other people told me, no, this is not what you do. But in the end, it always comes down, you go your way, your journey, do whatever you feel is right, and then find out, is it right for you or not? And you cannot fail. If something doesn't work, it's not failure, it's a learning. And this learning, one day you will look back and you're like, oh, thank God, this is what I experienced already, so this is not what I need, Like, there is no failure in life. We learn, we grow, we learn, we grow. And everyone who wants to tell you that this is not working, this is wrong, no, you know best. Find out, yeah.
Another good way to think of it is failure being not a bad thing because at least it means you tried. Usually if you're not failing at things, it means you're not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
Or you're avoiding things that could make you fail, so you're not going to grow as a result of it. And these clients that I've had that tend to be in that camp tend to be very close-minded. And like, my world is what it is. I know all of the truths of everything. All the medicine I've ever heard is accurate. All of the science I've ever heard is accurate. Nothing new could change my mind at all, ever. That is never the case. Science is always changing. Medicine is a practice. If you've heard of that, we're practicing medicine, right? Don't forget that. They're practicing. It's not a dead set science.
Just because you're wearing a white coat doesn't mean you know it all. But
right.
Yeah, no one does.
I know the last couple of years they've been talking about how little nutrition courses typical MDs take. And it's pretty eye-opening because it's such a crucial component to our health that it was completely negated in most of the medical training for the doctors from the 50s until recently. They just maybe had a single nutrition class, if that. And it was probably back in high school, not even part of their medical degree.
Yeah.
It was probably like high school level stuff. So that means just going through my exercise physiology degree, I had so much more knowledge of nutrition than the doctors did. And I found out that they're completely not even considering this as a way to get better, even though it's really the source of our well-being.
And that's the thing, like, you can be a doctor and have all, like, if you're curious and you're open-minded, then that means you're learning more and then you become a good doctor.
Right.
There are a few that are good, but a lot of them are just narrow-minded because they thought like, no, I ticked off my degree.
Yep.
And now I know everything. Like, you cannot tell me anything bad because I studied for 6 years or however long. And it's like, no, like, we all study the whole life. There is not like this day where everything is fine. It is not possible.
They're taught to look at symptoms and prescribe stuff that manages symptoms.
Yeah.
The medicine 3.0 that is starting to come in is going to be much more of the proactive, listen to your body, measure what matters. The days of just blindly listening to the generalized recommendation, I hope is behind us, because I think they've realized the individuality. When they do a lot of these randomized control trials, they're getting averages of the group. But if you look at everyone individually, oftentimes you'll find out that no one in that group is actually at that number because they've averaged everybody. Yeah. So those studies can be a little weird to look at and be like, oh, everyone needs 30 grams of protein per meal. Well, not necessarily, because there's a lot of people that are eating 1 and 2 meals a day that are still able to add muscle, and they have to be eating 150 grams of protein in one sitting if they're only doing 1 meal a day and still adding weight. So there's some very big differences between people, and the science that is recommending stuff isn't always the best to go by because of exactly that reason, right? Some people are going to be plenty well-burning fat at 110 beats per minute. Some people might need to get up to 140 beats per minute before they're burning body fat. It can go all the way in between. So if you're just following the heart rate monitor on the treadmill, there's like a 5% chance that you're the one that fits in the zone that it's exactly dialed in for. So just things to keep in mind. Be your own scientist. We're our own best advocate. So the doctors are there to help guide, but do your research, find the doctors that are open-minded and continuing to try to learn new things because they understand that it changes constantly. If your doctor is very set in their ways, it might be
the wrong doctor.
The wrong doctor
for you. If you realize it, it probably won't fit, and you don't have to stick to anything. You don't have to stick to anything if it doesn't feel right.
The health insurance models here are not helping anything. If you find that it has not been something that has served you, I will tell you, you don't have to be tied to the old insurance models. There are new things coming out that can be helpful and work in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
One of those being Crowd Health. I think they actually just got featured somewhere in Congress during a conversation I saw that one of their board members or something was talking with someone in Congress about health insurance, and he was like, well, I'm actually saving a lot of money by not buying into the standard health insurance system because of this, this, and this, and
they cannot help you anyways, right?
they're going to
Most of the
send
time.
me here, send me here, send me here before I can do the thing that I know that I need, whereas this Crowd Health system allows you to become a cash pay person, go directly to who you need, no network involved, and the crowd will help negotiate the price down if it's excessive. So it's a much more cash pay empowered system rather than a system incentivizing the insurance company to send you to 5 people before you find the one that's the thing that you actually needed. So I will make sure that I put in the description a link for Crowd Health if that sounded interesting to any of you. Definitely look into them if you feel like, oh, I haven't been able to afford any of the insurance, or I know right now premiums have gone through a bit of a spike recently because their days are numbered, I think. So they're trying to maximize the profits they can get right now. But they're seeing the writing on the wall is what's happening. And there are other options out there. So join Crowd Health, check it out. I will plug something in the description so you guys can have an easy link. Do you have any other final thoughts for us, Melanie?
No, just don't overthink everything. Just make it still playful and see what's the next little step you can adapt in your life, how to combine it or how to just change what you're already doing. This is, I think, the biggest thing, to not overwhelm yourself. You're eating anyways, you're sleeping anyways, you're waking up anyways. Like, okay, how can you make it a bit more efficient and beneficial?
And purposeful.
And purposeful.
You know?
And fun.
Understand that it's going to help your future self by working on these things. And in order to have the thing that we all want, we can't just do the thing that we know we need to do. We need to become the person that does that thing consistently enough to have the outcome we're looking for. So this is the be, do, have conversation that we have in our Return to Play program, and I know it's been circling other places as well, but it is very important for understanding how behavior changes. You can't just see that and be like, oh, I want that. You don't just immediately have it. To have that, you need to be running consistently every morning. If that thing is a certain marathon time, it's not going to get there by you not doing it. You have to do it. But if you just try to do it, you're going to fall off after a few weeks, 9 times out of 10, because you didn't make the commitment to become the person that gets up early enough to run at 5 a.m. every day so you can get the amount of miles in that you need to actually work on the time for that length of a run, right? So it comes to really becoming the person that is what you're looking to be, not just expecting that you can change your current version of you to just do the thing. You have a little diving to do.
Yeah, don't base it off of your past, base it off on your future. What would my future me, that's the best version of me, would do right now? And not, but don't find excuses, find possibilities, find solutions. Yeah.
Great point to end at, I think.
Yeah.
This has been the Return to Play podcast. Here with Melanie, going over the energy hacks that we can all do to better our day-to-day. We hope to see you guys next time. Have a good one.